Bob bounced excitedly in his seat as the spaceship began its descent toward Mars. As a young boy, Bob had always dreamt of becoming an explorer and being one of the first humans to colonize another planet. Now, at the age of 25, his dream was finally coming true. Looking out the window, Bob gasped as the rusty red landscape of Mars came into view. Huge volcanoes and craters dotted the alien terrain, untouched by human hands. Bob imagined what it would be like to be the first person to climb Olympus Mons, the tallest planetary mountain in the solar system, or to raft down the 4,000 km long, the largest canyon in the known universe. The possibilities for exploration were endless. The colony ship slowly lowered itself onto the designated landing zone, kicking up plumes of red dust. The engines powered down, and a ringing silence filled the cabin. Bob grabbed his helmet and stepped out onto the surface of Mars for the first time. He giggled to himself, filled with pure joy, as he bounced across the landscape in the lower gravity. The colony site had already been set up in advance by robotic systems. Prefabricated habitats stood ready for the settlers. Bob got to work unpacking equipment and setting up the essential systems they would need to survive: air, water, power, farming domes. The first few weeks would be crucial to get the basics established. Luckily, technology had advanced enough in the past century to make settling Mars feasible. The habitats were made from lightweight graphene materials that could withstand the harsh radiation. Closed-loop life support systems recycled water and air. Underground greenhouses produced food. Mars still had its challenges: frequent dust storms, frigid temperatures, an unbreathable atmosphere, but the colonists were prepared. Once the initial colony was set up, the real exploration could begin. Bob mapped out a route through Valles Marineris that would take him past water-carved canyons, landslides, and pits that dropped thousands of meters deep. He planned to travel down into the canyon on a rover, stopping to collect rock samples and take breathtaking panoramic photos at each scenic outlook. For his next expedition, Bob wanted to summit Olympus Mounds and gaze out across the vast Martian landscape from the highest point. He imagined himself looking down at the blanket of clouds sweeping over the volcano's caldera below. The locals told legends of ancient Martians, lighting fires in the volcano as a beacon for their ships. Bob smiled, thinking back to similar stories from mankind's ancient past. Bob's mind raced as he completed all that was still undiscovered on Mars. Each day brought new possibilities. He went to sleep dreaming of the secrets that were waiting just over the next crater rim, and couldn't wait to wake up to see what new adventures awaited him. Mars still had so many mysteries left to uncover, but Bob knew he was just the explorer to do it. Bob took a deep breath of his oxygen tank as he stepped out of the colony's airlock. Today was the day he would finally begin his long-awaited expedition into Valles Marineris. Strapping on his flight pack, Bob did a final system check. Looking one last time at the colony that had become his home over the past year, Bob grinned in anticipation. It was time for adventure. Bob lifted off, rising into the pink-hued sky as the massive canyon came into view. He flew over its steep walls, carved by ancient floods when Mars still had surface water. The valley stretched as far as the eye could see, over 4,000 kilometers long, 200 kilometers across, and up to 7 kilometers deep in places. It made the Grand Canyon look like a tiny crack in comparison. This would be the trip of a lifetime. Landing at the top of the cliff, Bob pulled out a seismic scanner to check for stability before rappelling down. The layers of rock told billions of years of Mars' geological history, just waiting to be read. Bob imagined the pulsing of ancient volcanoes, the rushing of floods, sand dunes shifting in the wind. He could almost hear the faint echoes of the life that may once have existed here when Mars was young. Reaching the canyon floor, Bob traversed fields of boulders deposited by ancient landslides. In the lower gravity, he could scramble and jump between the rocks like a superhero. Coming across a pit crater plummeting with dust, Bob leaned over cautiously to collect a sample, wondering what exciting discoveries might lie within. As the sun dipped low, Bob set up camp within a canyon alcove. He grinned as he ate his freeze-dried meal, watching the stars slowly emerge in the orange-tinted sky above. Nothing beats the feeling of drifting off to sleep beneath the 2 tiny moons of Mars. When morning came, Bob packed up to continue his journey, eager to see what new vista awaited around the next bend. He imagined countless generations of humans exploring these canyons, uncovering mysteries just as he did. For now, Bob was content being the first, but he looked forward to the day when millions of people could experience the wonders of stepping foot on Mars. The future was bright, and he couldn't wait to discover where the journey would take humankind next. As Bob returned to the colony after his epic journey through Valles Marineris, his mind was already racing with ideas for his next quest into the unknown. While the massive canyon had whetted his appetite for exploration, Bob now set his sights on the distant cratered highlands of Mars' southern hemisphere. He had heard whispers from other colonists of bizarre formations spotted in satellite imagery, spider-like patterns sprawling across the dusty terrain, almost appearing artificial in origin. These strange features were unlike anything else observed on Mars, and Bob knew he had to be the first to uncover their secrets. Images flashed through his mind of descending into craters, entering cave tunnels, and examining alien architectures. The thrill of discovery beckoned him once more. Bob imagined the day when humanity would unravel all of Mars' mysteries, but for now he was happy to take those first intrepid steps for posterity, paving the way for future generations of explorers. As he drifted off to sleep, Bob's mind swirled with dreams of what awe-inspiring vistas awaited him next. The red planet still had so much left to reveal. Bob double-checked his instruments as the shuttle descended toward the southern highlands. This mysterious region of Mars was pockmarked with craters and canyons spanning back billions of years. Somewhere down there, if the rumors held true, were the enigmatic spider formations Bob was determined to find. The shuttle dropped Bob off in a smooth Dust Bowl crater. Consulting his map, Bob headed south on foot toward the coordinates where the spider structures had been glimpsed. His excitement grew with each ridge he crested, until suddenly the bizarre shapes came into view. Bob let out a gasp. Spreading across the crater terrain was an intricate pattern of trenches, hundreds of meters long, intersecting at angles to form a vast spider web. Kneeling, Bob examined the trenches. They were too precise to be natural, about 2 meters deep with steeply angled sides. It was as if some intelligence had carved this web into the surface on Mars eons ago. Reaching the center of the spider web, Bob made an even more startling discovery. A crater here, about 20 meters across, showed evidence of structures lurking beneath. Old stone foundations could be glimpsed under the dust. This had been a facility of some kind. Bob's mind raced, struggling to make sense of these ruins. What had once transpired here? Setting up camp inside the central crater, Bob spent hours excavating and analyzing artifacts. They hinted at a civilization possessing advanced capabilities, though intrinsically alien. As the sun set, Bob gazed out at the sprawling spiderweb radiating outward. So many mysteries still remained. This sight raised profound questions about Mars' past. Were there once indigenous inhabitants, or had some extraterrestrial force influenced the planet? Tomorrow, Bob would venture into the crater tunnels, searching for more clues. But for now, his imagination ran wild with speculation. The taste of discoveries was sweeter than he could have imagined. The next morning, Bob eagerly prepared his equipment before rappelling down into the first crater tunnel. His helmet lamp pierced the darkness as he descended into the alien underground. Strange symbols marked the walls, their meaning unclear. Bob traced his fingers over the carvings, wondering what long-lost tales they told. Reaching the bottom, Bob found himself in a vast cavern, at least 50 meters tall. Luminescent crystals clustered along the walls, bathing the space in an otherworldly glow. Bob floated a reconnaissance drone up to map extent of the subterranean labyrinth. Tunnels branched out through solid rock in all directions. Just how deep did this alien world extend? Venturing forward, Bob entered a large chamber containing inscrutable artifacts. Dusty, cobweb-like frameworks towered overhead. Approaching a pedestal, Bob discovered an intricate cube, glowing gently. As he reached out, strange visions flooded Bob's mind, images of a towering city, unlike any human architecture, beings with large oval heads communicating telepathically, and swirling storms raging across an ancient Mars. Startled, Bob stepped back. Was this device some kind of projector, storing memories from Mars' distant past? A sound echoed down the tunnels, jolting Bob from his visions. He had to remind himself he was an explorer in an alien realm. While this was exhilarating, danger also lurked in the darkness. For now, there were too many unanswered questions. Returning to the surface, Bob was struck by how little humanity still grasped. What ancient civilization had once thrived here, leaving its mark on Mars? How had they shaped the planet and molded life here? Bob knew this site held profound insights if he could only just decipher them. He longed to share these wonders with the colony. For millennia, humans had gazed up at Mars in wonder. Now the moment had come to unravel its greatest enigmas. For the next few weeks, Bob established a research outpost at the Spider Crater site. He led excavation teams to carefully uncover more artifacts, while scanning the tunnels with ground-penetrating radar to map the full scale of the subterranean city. Bob was determined to decipher the secrets of this ancient Martian civilization. Late one night, while examining carvings in the central chamber, Bob noticed a hidden passage. Squeezing through, he found himself in a room filled with illuminating orb-like devices. As Bob approached, one orb brightened, displaying a holographic projection emerging from its core. An alien being took shape, looking directly at Bob. Stifling a gasp, Bob realized this was a stored consciousness, an interactive hologram holding the memories of one of the ancient Martians. The being spoke, its translated words echoing eerily in Bob's mind. "I am Telmar, guardian of the surviving histories. For millennia we have awaited contact. We will now share our collected wisdom." Telmar recounted the rise and fall of a civilization spanning over 100,000 years. They had been the first intelligent species to evolve on Mars, taming the planet and building a vast network of cities. But disaster struck as Mars underwent climate change, forcing the evacuation of the planet. Only Telmar and the stored minds of the elders remained, entombed in stasis. Bob was struck with wonder at experiencing Telmar's living memories. Here was a chance to truly grasp an alien perspective. For generations, humans had fantasized, fascinated about contacting other minds. Now, Bob had an opportunity to bridge the gulf between species. Before him lay a wellspring of wisdom, if contact could be maintained. This was a moment of profound hope, the realization that minds could understand each other across planets and eons. Bob knew he was just the first scout on a journey of 1,000 years, as humanity and Telmar's people learned of each other. Over the next few months, Bob and Telmar forged a connection between their species, separated by eons, but united in curiosity. Each day, Bob learned more about the ancient Martians and in turn shared the epic story of humankind rising from a single planet to explore the cosmos. Taught Telmar about humanity's art, music, cultures, weaknesses, and strengths. Bob worked diligently to understand the advanced Martian technology, gaining insights into manipulating gravity, telepathy, and harnessing energy from the quantum vacuum. Telmar was eager to share his knowledge, hoping it could help the humans avoid the same fate as the Martian civilization. As word spread, more colonists came to visit the archive Telmar maintained. Hearing first-hand accounts of another intelligent species was a revelation that touched their hearts and expanded their minds. Telmar became an ambassador, helping guide humanity forward. One day, Telmar revealed an even greater secret to Bob, the location of a hidden vault preserving Martian genetic material. If humans could successfully gestate the genetic samples, it could allow the first Martian to be reborn after thousands of years. Bob realized this was a profound ethical dilemma. Bringing back an extinct species could restore Telmar's lost people, but it also carried unknown risks. How could human and Martian values be reconciled? What future could they build together on Mars? It would take wisdom and care on all sides. Looking up at the stars, Bob felt hopeful. Humankind had taken its first tentative step into a larger universe brimming with life and intelligence. There were countless more Telmars to meet and learn from. Perhaps one day, humans would even choose to ascend beyond physical form, joining a galactic community of civilizations. For now, Bob was humbled to foster compassion between species, one small connection at a time. In the years that followed, the Mars colony flourished, thanks in large part to the wisdom imparted by Telmar. With the help of the archived Martian technology, humans were able to terraform the planet, making the air breathable and restoring liquid water. Soon, millions were living on Mars, drawn by its gleaming red spires, lush parks, and thriving culture blending the best of human and Martian ingenuity. Bob, now a respected elder himself, watched happily as Martian children ran laughing through the streets. The decision to resurrect the Martian species using their preserved DNA had not been easy, but humanity and the newly reborn Martians were now living side by side in peace. Hard questions remained about justice, technology, and the ultimate fate of both races, but they faced the challenges together. Gazing up at the stars, Bob remembered how far they had come. Just decades ago, Mars had been a barren wasteland, long devoid of life or civilization. Now humans danced in the temples of a reborn world, as the echoes of ancient Martian rituals sang once more. There were still mysteries to unlock across the red planet, but Bob took joy in each new discovery. On the horizon, gleaming space elevators carried ships outward to the stars beyond. Humans and Martians voyaged forth as one people, eager to find others to welcome into the fold. Bob knew future generations would travel further than he ever dared to dream. But he would always cherish having been one of the first explorers, taking those first tender steps into the unknown. Thanks to the connection forged long ago with Telmar, Bob had lit a spark, helping guide two worlds into a shared destiny among the stars. Bob gazed out the window of the starship as it accelerated away from Mars, now receding into a red speck against the void. Even after all these years, saying goodbye to the planet was bittersweet. So much of his life had been dedicated to exploring Mars and forging the bonds between two civilizations. But at 150 years old, Bob knew it was time for younger souls to lead as he embarked on one final journey among the stars. Reports had arrived from automated probes of an intriguing exoplanet orbiting a nearby star. Surveys indicated structures on the surface and energy signatures unlike anything encountered before. With humanity now thriving across the solar system and Mars fully terraformed, the infinite frontier of space beckoned once more. Bob smiled wistfully, knowing it would be generations before the starship reached its destination. Theranos, a young Martian astrophysicist, approached Bob reverently. "Will we find more species like yours out there, Pioneer?" she asked. Bob chuckled at still being seen as an adventurer after all this time. "If the universe is kind, you will find wonders I can barely imagine," Bob replied. As Bob settled in for the long hibernation of cryosleep, his mind drifted back to those first tentative days exploring Mars, when the gulf between minds seemed so vast. Now humans stand side by side with Martians, united as ambassadors, venturing forth to meet the galaxy's infinite diversity. In his lifetime, Bob had witnessed profound change by simply trying to understand. As his eyes closed and the freeze began, Bob hoped that the spirit of compassion would endure as humans and Martians traveled ever deeper into the cosmic unknown together. Bob slowly opened his eyes, emerging from cryosleep as the starship arrived at the distant exoplanet. Peering out the viewport, he beheld a world that took his breath away. Vast crystalline cities sprawled across the surface, glinting in the light of a nearby blue sun. Sleek vessels darted to and fro in the sky. It was a civilization more advanced than any humans or Martians had encountered before. Eagerly, Bob joined the first diplomatic envoy descending to meet these intriguing beings. Their grace and telepathic abilities astonished him. Over long discussions, they shared wisdom from eons traveling among the stars. Yet some profound questions gave them pause. There were layers to existence, they claimed, that even their science had not fully pierced. As Bob prepared to return to the starship, the aliens gave him an incredible gift, a shard of crystal that they said contained a glimpse into the next plane of reality. Back aboard the ship, Bob peered into the crystal shard and felt his consciousness expand, transcending space and time. He had an instant of profound understanding before the vision faded. With the starship now returning joyfully to Mars and Earth, Bob knew his long, adventurous life neared its end. But gazing out at the galaxy, he saw how much more there was left to explore. With so many worlds and dimensions still undiscovered, humanity and Martian kind were still only scratching the surface of the many mysteries the cosmos held. Though Bob would soon depart, the adventure he began would live on for generations to come. He closed his eyes, contentedly dreaming of the new realms left for future minds to unveil. Bob's journey and colonization of Mars may be over, but our exploration of the universe is just starting. Please join me in future adventures. Thanks for watching and listening.